Hey guys, Near Beer 1 here. This is my first video, so I wanted to try to maybe fill a gap that I haven't seen on YouTube and on some of the videos, and that's addressing a problem with carbonation. I know that there's a whole lot of different theories about why bottle conditioning doesn't create the right amount of carbonation, and I guess I was going to go through a couple of those and then talk about this beer here that I brewed just recently that I think maybe has that same problem. One of the problems that I researched and looked on the internet about talked about not enough priming sugar or no priming sugar at all. Obviously that's a big issue, right? Because the yeast will go ahead and create the carbon dioxide in the bottle as it's actually aging. That's not the problem on this one. I actually used Cooper's carbonation drops on each one of these bottles, so I know for certain that the right amount of priming sugar is in there. Another problem that is, a potential problem is that when you bottle condition your beer, and over the couple weeks that you're conditioning it, that you're not conditioning it at the right temperature. So in other words, if you had it too cold or way too hot, then the yeast is not going to be able to actually do its job, or it's going to really slow down its conditioning of the beer. That also is not the problem with my beer, because I had it in the house and maintained around 69, 70 degrees Fahrenheit for the duration of this. This beer is about 2 weeks old, so right now it should be fairly well carbonated. Obviously over the next week or so it would gain even more carbonation, but I think when I open this up you're going to see. Another problem that's discussed quite widely on the internet is that the yeast that is in this bottle is a little too tired. So as you let your beer ferment in the primary or secondary fermentation, it's really busy eating all of the sugars inside your beer, but by the time you get ready to bottle it, then there's just not enough active yeast to actually do its job. And actually I think that's what's the issue with this beer. The inclination of this problem would be, you could do a couple things. One, you could just throw it out, right? But nobody likes doing that. This actually is this is a German alt beer, and this was my first attempt at partial grain. I can tell you that I opened up the first bottle after a week. It had zero carbonation, but the taste was really good. So obviously I'd like to try to go ahead and salvage this beer if I can. So what I'm going to attempt to do today, and I've never tried it, so this is an experiment. You guys can feel free to critique and tell me different ways or better ways of doing it, but I'm just going to tell you this is what I'm going to try. I'm going to actually stage some yeast that I've got kind of stored away. I'm going to go and create a starter. I'm going to open up the bottles of beer. I'm going to add a little bit of yeast to each one of the bottles of beer. I'm going to recap them, and then in a week from now or 2 weeks from now, then we'll visit again and see how it did. So that'll tell us if that's the problem, right? So without further ado, I'll go ahead and show you the problem. So let me open this one up. I did get a little bit of pressure release there, so you may have heard that. I'm going to go ahead and pour it, and I think that pretty much the result's going to be very little carbonation. So as you can see, zero head at all. I don't know if you can see that or not. Looking at it, you do see a little bit of carbonation, but obviously not much. I mean, you can tell that with the zero head on that beer. I'm going to smell it. The smell is actually wonderful. I mean, it smells great, and I can tell you that I've actually tasted this already. As I mentioned a week ago, it tasted great. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Man, it tastes good. It really does. I just wish that it had more carbonation. For an alt beer, really it's supposed to have about a medium amount of carbonation. If you're going to do like a darker beer or a stout or a porter or something like that, it's really not supposed to have a lot of carbonation. It's on the low end. There are other types of beers that most normally have higher carbonation on the higher end of the scale. And you can look at it on the internet. There's lots of different sites that'll tell you the amount of priming sugar and things like that, that for the type of beer that you are brewing. But for this alt beer, really it's supposed to have medium carbonation. So I'm going to go ahead and pause for now, and I'm going to get my yeast ready, and I'll show you that. And I'll show you adding it to some of my beer, and we'll check in again in about a week. So thanks. Hey guys, back with you. So what we're doing now is we're going to actually create the yeast starter, and we're going to do that by actually taking 1 cup of water, beginning to boil that. I'm actually going to go ahead and add some sugar to that. I'm going to add some dry malt extract. So this is something I just picked up at my homebrew supply. We want to go ahead and give the yeast something to get them active. So the dry malt extract will give some sugar to the yeast and let them get excited and get active. I don't want to add a ton of dry malt extract to the yeast, simply because the beer already has some sugar in it. It's got the carbonation drops. So I assume that there's going to be some residual sugar already in there. So I don't want to go overboard and create beer bombs. So so that's what we're going to do. Obviously we don't want to add the yeast. I've got the Saf Brew T58. I don't know if I'm going to do the whole package, probably just a portion of it. I don't think I'm going to need a ton to actually get this process going. But then we need to make sure that it's a good temperature to pitch it. So we'll bring this back down to about 70 degrees to pitch the yeast. So it's almost ready to boil. I'm going to go ahead and add the dry malt extract to it, and we're going to stir it in, and I'll check in again with you here in a second. Okay, here we are back, and I've got the little mixture of the sugar, dry malt extract mixture cooled down. So I've got my little temperature probe here. We're going to take a temperature reading. Looks like it may be a little bit on the high side, a little bit. Looks like we're about 73, 74, somewhere like that. But that shouldn't be too bad. I think we're going to go ahead and give it a try. As I mentioned before, we're not going to actually use this whole pack. Here's the yeast we're going to use. Again, if you think about it, these packs have millions and millions of yeast cells. We're not going to need that many to actually carbonate our beer. So we're going to go ahead and cut all this open. Obviously, I am using good sanitation. So here I've got my sanitation cup. I've got my scissors. So we'll just kind of give those a little drip off. And we're going to go ahead and cut this open. Let me get you where you can see this. You look inside there, got a good number of yeast cells. I'm going to go ahead and add that then to our mixture. And again, I'm going to add about half of this pack. That's about half there. And we're going to go ahead and give this a good stir. Immediately I can smell the baker's yeast. It smells like baker's yeast, like I'm making some bread or something, which is a good sign. Okay, I think I'm going to give the yeast a little bit of a rest, let them get active. Again, they have been dried out, so it's going to take them a little time to go ahead and get active. Probably gonna maybe give it, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes. Let them kind of start doing their thing. And then we're gonna actually use I've just got a turkey baster here that I've gotten for, with the Thanksgiving turkey or whatever. And I'm going to fill that up with our yeast mixture. And then we're going to add it to all of our bottles. Hey guys, over here. I'm back with you. It's been about 15 minutes now that I pitched the yeast, and they've hopefully been reactivating and getting energized. Looks pretty good. I don't know if you can see this or not, but it smells, like very yeasty, like it should. It smells very healthy. Hopefully they're getting active and getting energized. I did go ahead and add a little bit of yeast energizer to the solution as well. You didn't see that on video, but I did do that. Hopefully get them a little bit more active. We've got several things here. We've got our bottles of beer. We've got our bottle capper. We've got our sanitized bottle caps. And then we also have our turkey baster here. And that's been resting in my sanitation solution. So hopefully it is good and sanitized and ready to go. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and fill it up with the solution. I don't really plan on adding a lot of the solution to each one of the bottles. I think just a little bit will do. Again, since I do have the dry malt extract in here, I am introducing some more sugar to the bottles. Again, I don't want to create bottle bombs, so I'm not going to add a ton of it to it. But hopefully a little bit we'll go ahead and get it active. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and pull off the cap. You did hear a little bit of release of pressure. So we do know that there's been some amount of activity in there, but again, not to my liking. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add just a little squirt in there, not a lot. And I'm pretty much going to go ahead and immediately cap that back. We really don't want a whole lot of air getting to the beer at this point. At the beginning of fermentation, when you're first putting your beer into your wort and all of that into your fermenter, you do want a whole lot of oxygen and air in your beer, because again, that's what the yeast are going to feed on. But not at this point. At this point, we just want it pretty much on and off, and we'll see what happens. So that's it. It's an experimentation. I don't know if it's going to work, but it was worth a try because the taste of the beer is great, and I want to try to salvage it. So at any rate, we'll check in again in about a week, and I appreciate you watching my first video. Thanks. Bye.